This will be our introduction to clay, and what you see here is the three different types of clays we're asking you to think about working with. Model Magic is the cleanest, manufactured by Crayola, and it is sold at H-E-B in the school supply section, so this is purchasable. And it air dries, so you want to keep it in its bag until you're ready to use it. We also provided a recipe for making clay from, basically it's a dough, obviously, from flour, salt, and water, and you just mix it all together, and then you gotta knead it. That's where you're like scrunching your fingers through it to get it all into one solid mass. And this also will dry out in the air and can be baked to make it more long-lasting. Model Magic, you do not want to bake at all. It is just air dry. When you're done, you set it off to the side and it will harden, and it is very lightweight. It's not something that you could use. It's more of a decorative and fun clay to play with. The earth clay is basically what I'm going to demonstrate for you in this next few videos, and the materials that you'll need to work with to be successful is obviously a towel that you can wipe your hands with. A little bit of water is always helpful, and I want to demonstrate how to make some slip, which is a way of joining the clay together to make a more strong bond. A fork is handy for the tines on the tips, where you can actually scratch the surface to what makes score marks, which actually help hold it all together. So as a quick demonstration, when working with the clay, what we gave you is wrapped in plastic to keep it moist. So you always like to keep what you're not using sealed up, and just work with a little bit at a time. And I'm just going to start by showing you what slip is and explaining clay. Clay is made of earth clay, and it's not dirt. Dirt has like broken down leaves, things that have been eroded by nature, things that were once alive, like dead bugs and grass and all this kind of stuff is what earth is. Clay from the ground is actually pulverized rock that when it's all together and moist, it can actually be shaped, and it's malleable. You know, you can pinch it in your hands and shape it into things. Slip is made from very wet clay, and ideally, if you wanted to make your own slip, you just kind of work the clay in a small amount, make it nice and flat, and you're actually just going to let it dry. And once it is what we call bone dry, that means it has no more moisture in it, it will crumble into a powder. And then you reconstitute it by adding a little bit of water to it. Here's some clay that I've been letting out, and you'll notice as you're working with the clay, it'll start to crack and crumble as the moisture dries up. It doesn't want to hold itself together anymore. And the little pieces of rock are now coming apart. They're crumbling. This is not bone dry, it's pretty close, but this is basically the powdered clay. It's getting really dry, and you could reconstitute it by adding water. But what I want to do is make slip, so I'm going to put it into this container. So having a bowl handy would be helpful. If you just want to play with the clay for a bit just to get familiar with it, that's a good way to help yourself make slip, is as the clay is dried up, you can put into a cup or a bowl, a shallow bowl, something that you could actually mix in, and you're going to add a little bit of water at a time. You don't want to add too much, because then it'll be very difficult. It can become soupy, and what you're aiming for is a creamy texture. So I'm going to kind of stir it up, and this will be the slip that I will use. In the classroom, I like to use old paintbrushes so I don't have to touch the slip too much. And one of the jokes I always tell my students, I think it's called slip because if you use too much slip, it gets slippery. But basically, that's just what it's called. Others, ceramicists call it slurry. Kind of has a kind of a onomatopoeia, sounds like what it is. Slurry, slippery, slip. And you just want it to be kind of creamy like that. So I'm going to stop the video now that I've showed you how to make the slip. I'll demonstrate what scoring is with the fork in the next demo. So that's your introduction to clay. Hope you enjoyed it. It's important to watch even if you do not have clay to work with. It's good to get that knowledge.